My sister spent years gaslighting me into believing I was the unstable one in the family. When she tried to commit me to a facility to take my trust fund, I revealed that I've been the one managing her allowance for the last 5 years. It started with a single moment that still burns in my memory. I was standing in the kitchen pouring tea for my mother, when my sister leaned against the counter and said almost casually, "You know, everyone worries about you. You're not steady." Her tone was soft, almost sympathetic, but her eyes carried something sharper. My mother froze, her hand tightening around the teacup, and I felt the weight of that silence pressing down on me. That was the first time I realized she wasn't just teasing or criticizing, she was planting something deeper, something meant to grow inside me. From then on, her remarks became a constant shadow. At family dinners, she'd tilt her head and sigh when I spoke, as if my words were fragile glass about to shatter. "Don't upset yourself," she'd murmur, loud enough for everyone to hear. Relatives would glance at me with that look, half pity, half suspicion. I could feel their judgment even when no one spoke. It wasn't just words. It was the way she raised her eyebrows, the way she paused before answering me, as if weighing whether I was capable of understanding. Slowly I began to doubt myself. I remember one holiday gathering when she whispered to an aunt, "She's been so emotional lately." I caught the words, though she pretended I hadn't. My aunt's smile toward me softened, but it carried pity, not warmth. I sat through dinner with my stomach knotted, wondering if everyone at the table saw me as unstable. That night, I lay awake replaying every conversation, every laugh, every glance, trying to figure out if I had done something wrong, or if she had simply convinced them I had. The label she gave me followed me outside the family too. Friends began to notice my hesitation, the way I second-guessed myself before speaking. I withdrew, afraid they might see me the way she painted me. I stopped joining outings, stopped answering calls because the thought of being judged, even silently, was unbearable. Loneliness became my companion, and I carried it like a heavy coat I couldn't take off. Small incidents became her proof. If I misplaced my keys, she'd smile knowingly and say, "You're always so forgetful." If I missed an appointment, she'd shake her head and remark, "It's hard for you to keep track, isn't it?" Each slip, each ordinary mistake was magnified under her gaze. She stood calm, collected, the picture of reliability, while I was cast as the fragile one. I began to wonder if maybe she was right. Maybe I was weak. Maybe I was broken. But deep down I knew something wasn't right. I started keeping a journal, writing down events exactly as they happened. If I misplaced my keys, I noted where I had left them. If she twisted my words, I wrote down what I had actually said. It was my secret weapon, my way of holding on to the truth when she tried to rewrite it. Each entry was a lifeline, proof that I wasn't losing my mind. One evening, after she accused me of forgetting a conversation we had never had, I opened my journal and read the entry aloud to myself. The relief was overwhelming. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't unstable. She was the one bending reality, and I had the evidence to prove it, to myself if not to anyone else. Still, the manipulation continued. At a cousin's wedding, she pulled me aside and whispered, "Don't drink too much. You know how you get." I hadn't touched a drop, but her words spread quickly. By the end of the night, relatives were watching me with cautious eyes, as if expecting me to stumble or cause a scene. I smiled, danced, and kept my composure, but inside I was boiling. She had turned me into a spectacle without lifting a finger. There were moments when I wanted to confront her, to shout the truth in her face. But I held back. I knew she thrived on drama, and any outburst would only feed her narrative. Instead, I stayed quiet, observing, recording, waiting. My silence became my shield, even as it made me appear weak. The years stretched on, each one marked by her quiet campaign against me. I learned to mask my emotions, to smile when I wanted to scream, to nod when I wanted to argue. I became skilled at hiding my pain even from myself. But beneath the surface, a fire was building, a determination to one day expose her lies. Looking back, I see how carefully she crafted her role. She was the calm sister, the responsible one, the voice of reason. I was the fragile shadow, the one who needed guidance. It was a performance, and she played it flawlessly. But she underestimated me. She thought her whispers and raised eyebrows would break me. Instead, they taught me patience. They taught me to watch, to wait, and to prepare. And so, while she believed she was winning, I was quietly gathering strength. My journal grew thicker, filled with truths she couldn't erase. My resolve hardened, shaped by every insult, every manipulation, every false smile. She thought she was rewriting my story, but in reality she was writing her own downfall. By the time those years of doubt and manipulation had passed, I was no longer the fragile sister she wanted me to be. I was something else entirely, someone ready to turn her game against her. The silence in the living room that morning was unnatural, heavy, almost staged. My sister sat across from me, a neat stack of papers in her lap, her posture stiff, her expression unreadable. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. "It's time," she said, her voice flat as if announcing a routine chore. She slid the papers across the table toward me. I glanced down and saw the words that made my chest tighten. Forms for psychiatric commitment. My name printed neatly at the top as though I were already erased from my own life. Her tone was chilling, detached, as if she were speaking about a stranger. "This is for your own good," she said, but her eyes betrayed her. They flickered not with concern but with calculation. When she mentioned the trust fund, her gaze lingered, her lips tightening ever so slightly. That was the moment the truth hit me, not care, not love, but greed. She wasn't trying to save me. She was trying to take everything I had. I remember my hands trembling as I pushed the papers back toward her. "You can't do this," I whispered, though my voice lacked conviction. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Everyone already knows you're unstable. They'll believe me." The words sliced through me, sharper than any blade. The hours that followed were frantic. I locked myself in my room, pulling out my journal, flipping through pages filled with years of entries. Proof. Evidence. My truth written in ink. I called my lawyer, my voice shaking as I explained what she was trying to do. He listened carefully, then asked me to bring everything, every note, every detail. I gathered the journals, photographs, even small receipts that showed my clarity when she claimed otherwise. The betrayal was deeper than any insult she had ever thrown. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. This was an attempt to erase me completely, to strip me of my identity and my independence. She wanted me powerless, locked away while she held the keys to my life. I couldn't stop replaying her words in my head. "They'll believe me." She was right in a way. She had spent years building her case, whispering doubts into the ears of relatives, painting me as fragile. And now she was ready to cash in on that narrative. But something inside me shifted that day. Fear gave way to resolve. I realized I couldn't fight her with anger. It would only prove her point. I had to fight her with quiet strength, with patience, with undeniable truth. I remember walking into my lawyer's office, the journals stacked in my arms. He flipped through them, his brow furrowing, his eyes widening as he read. "This is meticulous," he said. "You've documented everything." For the first time in years I felt seen. I wasn't the unstable sister. I was the careful one, the observant one, the one who had prepared for this moment without even knowing it. That night, I sat alone in my room, staring at the papers she had tried to force on me. I thought about every moment she had twisted reality, every time she had made me doubt myself. And now here it was, the culmination of her campaign. But instead of breaking me, it hardened me. I decided then that I wouldn't confront her with rage. I wouldn't scream or cry. I would fight back with silence, with evidence, with deliberate strength. She thought she had cornered me, but she had underestimated the quiet resilience she had spent years trying to bury. The breaking point wasn't just her betrayal, it was my awakening. I saw her clearly for the first time, not as the sister I had grown up with, but as the rival who had built her power on lies. And I knew with absolute certainty that I would not let her win. The air in the room was thick, almost suffocating when I finally spoke. My sister sat across from me, her arms folded, her chin lifted in that familiar posture of superiority. She thought she had cornered me, thought her plan was flawless. But I leaned forward, my voice calm, steady, deliberate. "You've been living off me for 5 years," I said. "Every dollar you've spent, every trip, every gift, you didn't control it." "I did." Her face shifted instantly. The smugness drained, replaced by confusion, then disbelief. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, her voice rising. I didn't flinch. I slid a folder across the table, filled with statements, transfers, and records. "Your allowance," I said softly. "I've been managing it. You thought you were independent, but you've been dependent on me all along." She grabbed the papers, flipping through them with trembling hands. I watched her eyes dart across the pages, her lips parting as the truth sank in. The silence that followed was more satisfying than any scream or argument. She had built her power on lies, and now those lies were crumbling in front of her. I explained how carefully I had structured her finances, how I had ensured she never realized the control rested with me. Every dollar she spent passed through my hands first. Every indulgence, every luxury, every moment she flaunted her supposed stability, it had all been funded by the sister she called unstable. The satisfaction was sharp, almost electric. Watching her realize that her power had been nothing more than an illusion was the revenge I had waited for. She had tried to erase me, but instead she had been living in the shadow of my control. The family gathered soon after, summoned by her attempt to commit me. They sat in the living room, their expressions wary, uncertain. My sister tried to speak, tried to twist the narrative again, but I interrupted her. Calmly I laid out the truth. The records, the journals, the evidence. I showed them how she had manipulated, how she had lied, how she had depended on me all along. The shift in the room was palpable. Relatives who once looked at me with pity now turned their eyes on her with suspicion. The whispers she had planted for years were replaced with questions directed at her. Is this true? How could you do this? She stammered, her composure unraveling. For the first time she was the one under scrutiny. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I simply stood firm, letting the truth speak for itself. My silence had become my weapon, my patience my revenge. Later that evening, when the family had left and the house was quiet, she confronted me again. You planned this, she accused, her voice shaking. I met her gaze and replied, no. You planned your own downfall. I just let you walk into it. Her anger boiled, but she had no ground left to stand on. The illusion of her control was shattered, and she knew it. In the days that followed, the family's perception of me changed. They no longer saw me as fragile or unstable. They saw me as strong, deliberate, resilient. My sister's manipulation was laid bare, her greed exposed, and my strength undeniable. I carried a lesson from that revelation, one that has stayed with me ever since. Silence can be power. Patience can be revenge. And sometimes the best justice is letting someone choke on the trap they set for you. I didn't need to destroy her. She had destroyed herself. All I had to do was wait, watch, and reveal the truth at the right moment. And in that moment I reclaimed not just my trust fund, not just my independence, but my dignity. The years of doubt, the manipulation, the betrayal, they all led to this. My revenge wasn't loud or violent. It was quiet, deliberate, and absolute. She had tried to erase me. Instead she erased herself.